I don't have a lot of thoughts on the new song Port Antonio by J. Cole. Or at least I didn't have a lot of thoughts. I don't know. I did this whole live stream yesterday, organized by Justin Hunt, Jeremy Hecht, Rob Markman, Curtis King, FT Signifier. It was a huge honor. Go check it out if you haven't seen it. But the funny thing was, I had spent most of that day watching those 5 people talk about this new J. Cole song. And while I was sitting there during this live stream and they were talking about their thoughts and they had some new ones and said some of their old ones, I started to have a lot more to say. And it was really exciting. Just as a side note, I think if we had to boil this down to a competition and you had to only pick one, I think Rob Markman's take, I think is the best take on this song. It's better than this one. So watch that one instead of this one. But you're here now anyways. You probably do what I did. Watch them all. It's fun. It's exciting. It's part of the great thing that's happening right now in hip-hop journalism and maybe even in hip-hop itself, where there's a real fight and a real push for, I don't know if it's conscious, but sort of earnest love of the culture and of the music, and there seems to be more space for people who really love it. Okay? So what was nice was while I was sitting there and listening to them talk and talking myself, I tried to do more listening than talking because it was an amazing room. It really helped me to nuance my thoughts, and while I was sitting there, I had a lot more, you know? And the thing that I really realized while sitting there with them is just how perfectly this song is divided in two, which makes sense because it's a song about a beef. If there was a third verse, the song wouldn't work, okay? J. Cole is, if anything, super smart, and he knows what he's doing, and I think he's intentionally developing this image of himself being stuck between two worlds, between Drake and Kendrick. And I think that's why it's 2 verses. And I think there's a little line in the beginning of the song that really reminds me of that. The funny thing is, the main thing that I said about the song yesterday, because they all said more interesting things than I was going to say, was that I think it has the best Michael Jackson reference in rap history. Now, Rob disagreed with me. He actually thought J. Cole's verse earlier this year was better. That's fine. That's a fun debate. I just wanted to get a debate going, make it like a sports show. I just wanted someone to call me Skip, but they never did. It's okay. There'll be another time, hopefully. But this image of everything divided in two is galvanized around this Michael Jackson image. I was Mike in red leather trying to tell him to stop, referring to his friend who turned to a life of crime. You better beat it before you see the heavy metal get popped. Now, on the one hand, he's talking to his friend and he's being like Michael Jackson in the video Beat It. If you haven't seen it, he's wearing red leather. He's walking around. There's 2 gangs that are fighting each other. The gangs look suspiciously like Los Angeles dance troupes of the 1980s. And he's trying to break them up. He's trying to stop the warfare. He's trying to stop the violence. And he's in between them. And he's in a dangerous spot. And he's essentially trying to dance conflict away. So it makes sense in the context of this song that he chose that. And also, not for nothing, but heavy metal. That's the song that introduced Eddie Van Halen into Michael Jackson's music. It helped to tie together heavy metal and pop and R&B all that at the same time, you know? Can never accuse J. Cole of not working on many different levels. Awesome, awesome lyrics. But let's go back to this divided theory. You know, the first verse, I think we could just say, is why I rap. And verse 2 is why I stopped participating in this beef. I brought this theory up last night, and I'm not quite sure. I'm working on it. But I think you could almost see that J. Cole is trying to put his entry into the beef. He's trying to beat both of them by looking like he's not fighting and then trying to do what they do but better. The first verse. In a previous conversation I had with Justin Hunt, we talked about what can Drake do to recover from this. And we both agreed the best thing he can do is just be true to himself. Talk about his life. Talk about his experience. Talk about what it is to be biracial, to be bicultural, to live in poverty and to live in relative ease. What it is to be in this space. What it is to have your blackness challenged all the time. Like, what if Drake wrote the best possible verse he could? It wouldn't be as good as this verse. Okay, like, if Drake does it, it's too late, because J. Cole reminds you in this verse his life experience communicates a lot of what Drake's life experience communicates, especially in terms of the difficulty of sort of being, the day walker, of living a black and white experience sort of at the same time in a very complex way. Of course, that's oversimplifying things, and it's impossible. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that you live the white experience when you're black and white, but you live in two different worlds in a way that other people cannot relate to, whether you are one or the other, right? But he's just doing it better than Drake ever could. And then the second verse is like this super wise take on what rap should be, what the culture should be, and why we shouldn't. Don't give in to clicks, guys. This is about art. This is about integrity. Which is what Kendrick has been saying the whole time, right? So it's sort of like he has his Drake verse and he has his Kendrick verse. And so I'm split. I'm split right down the middle. I'm of two minds. The one mind of me is like, yeah. If you haven't seen Eric the Young God's video on this, go see that if you want to see someone just happy. He's a young guy. He's in Florida during the hurricane. He's in his, I think he calls it Pink Dungeon. I found out when he interviewed me last week, that's his bathroom. I may be a pretty cool guy in my bathrobe on my back porch because I'm afraid of my baby waking up. But that's super cool. Recording in your bathroom. Yeah. Anyways, if you want like a super positive take, go check that out. If you want a more negative take, I think you might be pretty interested in Curtis King, the way he takes it. But anyways, I'm of two minds, okay? And I'm empathetic, and I'm like, go Cole. And then I'm also just hypercritical and just like, you clown. And I'm constantly going between those, which, if we are to be super charitable to J. Cole, might have been the point. He might be trying to get at this dilemma that we have. The fact this song is so divisive, the fact that we don't know what to think about it, could end up being J. Cole's greatest gift, because that might be how he feels. He might have successfully communicated the conflict within himself by creating a song that creates so much conflict within the listener. But I'd say no matter how you read it, it boils down to the following thesis, an unstated thesis, an interesting thesis. Hip-hop is not a competitive art form. Thank you for auditing the Always Positive New Music Review Show, hosted by a French professor who almost forgot to do the intro. Stayed up late last night doing that, got up early doing this. I think we should see that this is what he's saying. Hip-hop, he's saying two things. One, hip-hop is not a competitive art form, and I am the best. Okay? But the reason that I'm the best is that I know I don't have to prove it in conflict. J. Cole wants us to change our perspective on rap music and accept that you can be the best without conflict, without fighting for it. This is ahistorical, okay? It is also strange because the man himself started all of this. Listen, okay, there was a first shot in the Revolutionary War. There was a first battle in the Civil War. These things were always coming. The Drake and Kendrick thing was always coming. But there's still, Harper's Ferry still exists, okay? That bridge in Lexington still exists, okay? So there is a first shot. And what was the shot heard round the world in this beef? We the big three, like we started a league. But right now, I feel like Muhammad Ali. Mr. No Conflict, Mr. I Don't Want to Fight, started it all by saying that we're not the big three because I'm Muhammad Ali. What is Muhammad Ali's most famous quote? Not full like a butterfly, sting like a bee, saying I'm the greatest. Just that is the essence of Muhammad Ali. It's hard to be humble when you're as great as I am, okay? That image, just Muhammad Ali, how many times has he been used? Has he been used more often than Michael Jackson in rap music? I don't know. I have to look that up on Genius. That's a good question. Should have asked that last night. That's him. He is the greatest. He is the picture of dominance and excellence and fighting for your spot and self-confidence. So much of rap music is just completely inspired by Muhammad Ali's posture, his greatness, his excellence. And rap is often compared to boxing. I mean, let's think about Mama Said Knock You Out. Just think about how many times they compare themselves to boxers. I mean, I said it's ahistorical because, wave your hands in the air and wave them like you just don't care. The guy who said that was Cowboy. And the way that he got the mic, the first time he got the mic with Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, is he punched a dude in the mouth, okay? Like, literally punched, not metaphorically punched, okay? Think about the Wu-Tang Clan. I love you, God, and Inspect the Deck, but the reason that they don't have that many verses is because their verses were not as good as the Jizza or as Ghostface Killer or as Raekwon, Obviously, part of what makes rap so fascinating, and I talk about this a lot on this channel, is that it's a competitive art form. And in that competitiveness, there's a kind of fairness. There's a kind of understanding that, much like sports, if you are good enough, you will succeed. So to have an anti-conflict stance, and I understand that competing with someone is not the same thing as battling, not necessarily. But if you start a battle, and you participate in the battle, and then you say, I don't compete, that's where we have an issue. But this got me thinking, this Muhammad Ali thing. J. Cole feels like Muhammad Ali. Hey everybody, it's Professor Sky's History Time. How did Muhammad Ali lose the heavyweight belt? I'll give you a hint. He didn't get punched. He was a conscientious objector. He refused to fight. Here's one more quote from Muhammad Ali. I believe in the religion of Islam. I believe in Allah and peace. He refused to fight in Vietnam, and therefore he lost his belt. The person who we see as the epitome of not only black excellence, but human excellence in terms of athleticism and his humanitarian efforts and his ability to stand up to wrongs and his ability with the media. I mean, truly one of the greatest Americans, if not the greatest American. That's how great Muhammad Ali is. And he got that way through his fists and through fighting and through being the best over and over and over and over and over again. And why did he lose his belt? Because he wouldn't fight. So, they stripped him of his spot. I'm sorry, I'm quoting J. Cole right there. They stripped me of my spot and now I'm free. So, that's kind of cool. That's kind of an intro. I don't know if that's on purpose. I imagine that it is. I think J. Cole has earned our trust into thinking that he's working on these levels and that he really is like Muhammad Ali. Because he became famous in this whole thing by starting off a fight, and then now he is, a child of light. So let's think about this, about these verses. I mean, this first verse is just beautiful. It's his lived experience. It's what rap can be. He's describing things which are very specific. What I love is that he actually says, you can't relate unless, and then he gives a list of hyper-specific things. You can't relate to me unless your father left you, your mom remarried, and the combined funds of your mother and her new husband meant that I got to move out. You got to move out of a bad neighborhood into a good neighborhood. We can't, right? So he's making it very specific. He's saying you can't relate to me because you haven't lived my life, so let me tell you my life, and that's the point of rap music, right? And that's the other thing, right? So hip hop is combat, is excellence, is a competitive art. But then also, it's the voice of the voiceless. It's the ability to express things in ways that in an excellent way, where people who have not necessarily been given access to the power structures that would allow you to express yourself in societally acceptable ways have found a way to express themselves that goes around any kind of power structure just through the ability to represent what's in their mind out their mouth. Right? That's the other thing that rap music is. And it's this beautiful verse. And it's funny because just this morning, I was getting ready for it. So basically I wake up an hour before my family wakes up, but then I have to wait for the sun to rise because that's my light. So I'm just sitting in there and I'm making my coffee. And I watched Fantano really clown on this song, saying how he doesn't need to hear the origin story over and over again. I don't know. I don't know J. Cole's work that well. I don't. So it actually helped me. So now I know how people feel when they watch a Batman movie. every single time with the stupid popcorn and the stupid pearls falling on the ground. How many times do we have to see Martha Wayne get shot and scream? Well, it's fine. And it's great, and it's excellent. But then we get to the second verse, and this is where we really get to the other mind. This is where we have to be conscious of the fact that maybe I'm being too charitable in comparing him to Muhammad Ali as a conscientious objector, okay? Maybe I'm being too generous, because let's face it, J. Cole is trying to have his cake and eat it too. I actually don't like that expression because it doesn't make sense, because if you have a cake, then obviously you would eat it. I'll explain to you what it means in a different sense. There's a French expression, which is to have your butter and the money for the butter. Doesn't that make more sense? To have butter and the money for the butter? And I know, okay? Listen, I don't live a particularly luxurious life. But my wife, who grew up, she grew up in Serbia in the 90s, so there's no easy way to grow up in Serbia in the 90s. She didn't have any luxuries growing up, except she lived like a woman would bring, like, literally milk to her on her shoulders, like in a little bag, like straight from the village, okay? So she has a taste for dairy that is just unquestionable. So this butter, this is $6 worth of butter. Now, it's totally worth it. Once you eat the cultured, salted butter of Butter Boy, oh my God, it is some of the greatest possible food you can possibly eat. It's worth every penny. But the problem is every single time I buy it, every time I buy the grass milk, I'm like, oh my God. I want the butter, but I also want the money for the butter. I work really hard for my money, and that's a lot of money for the butter. I want the butter and the money for the butter. And it feels to me like Cole wants the butter, which is to say he wants to be the best, and he wants to be seen as the best because he's better than everybody, and he'll fight all comers. Put him here. But then he also wants the money for the butter and say, I do not engage. Come with me. I should pull a thing like have the birds like land on my finger, in my bathrobe. And it's like, and I pointed this out, okay? I pointed this out yesterday, but I'm serious about this. The line, mano a mano, I'm Bono, I'm you times two. First of all, a great dividing line. Is it cheesy or is it brilliant? Everybody agrees it's brilliant. Fine, okay? It's an interesting line with Bono and I'm you times two. But what does mano a mano mean? Hand to hand. It's talking about hand-to-hand combat. That's what mano a mano means. Let me say this line in a different way. In a fight, I am 2 times better than you. That's what he says in the first verse. So which is it, Cole? Is it the butter or is it the money for the butter? Because the rest of the song is not the face. I know. I don't believe in fighting. I'm not on the team. No. I'm just, I just get everyone the Gatorade, I just make sure everyone's all set. I keep score. Actually, I didn't make the team, my 8th grade basketball team, so they made me manager. So I had to keep score. I didn't pay attention to the game. I just had my headphones on. I was like listening to Bob Dylan. Fucking idiots. And we lost a game once because I didn't tally it right. Anyways, I'm not playing. I'm not a boxer. I'm a sparring partner. I'm the cut man. I'll fix you up if you go there. And let's think about this line. I hate what raps become, but like do not disturb lines, can't knock it if I see it's about the dough. First of all, beautiful rhyme, okay? How cool is that he's talking about the dough? He's doing the thing where he has one sound represent 2 words. Fascinating play, right? It's a homophone, right? But it's the word door and dough, and he uses it because it works in both cases. You put a do not disturb sign on a door, so you can't knock if you see it's above the door, if it's about the door. Even about the door, it's above the door. The way he says like he's playing with accents, he's playing with words. J. Cole, master rapper, okay? So that's great because it also is can't knock, meaning can't criticize it if I see it's about the dough, if it's about the money. So you're on Drake's side. Because the whole problem is he's pretending like he doesn't know this is a cultural referendum. This is, as Read My Soul says, the Great Reset. He's pretending like this isn't way bigger than Kendrick versus Drake. He's like making this whole point as though it's like, oh, I'm glad I didn't participate in this little individual battle that has no larger repercussions on this culture, which I love so much and to which I have contributed so much. No. If it's about the dough, I can't knock it. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. Kendrick is saying, hey, everybody, let's knock it if it's just about the dough, because that's the question. This is one of the great questions in the history of hip-hop. Is money the ends or the means? Is money the point of the art? Now, I'm not saying it's not, because I didn't grow up in extreme need. I did not grow up in the Bronx in the mid-'70s, okay? I did not grow up in places that resemble the Bronx in the mid-'70s in a different time, okay? I don't know. I'm not even criticizing it if the money is the point. But I think that's what this larger debate is. Do rappers get money so that they can be comfortable enough to express themselves with their art and not have to dance with the stars and not have to work a 9-to-5, not have a job and wish for the zeros? Or do they use the art, do they use the culture just to get the money? Which is it? What is the means and what is the ends? Drake thinks that the money is the ends and the culture is the means. Kendrick says the culture is the ends and the money is the means. That's what this whole debate is about. So hey, can't knock it if I see it's about the dough? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Everybody, the door is open. We can criticize rappers for just trying to get the bag. It is possible to say, and I mean this with all due disrespect, don't fucking get your bag. Don't just think about your bag. There is more to it than the bag. Keep going. They instigate the fuckery because it's profitable. They? I pulled the plug because I seen where it was about to go. Pulled the plug? Pulled the plug? You pulled the plug. They instigate the fuckery. My friend, Jermaine Cole, you instigated the fuckery. Okay? If you want to see who instigated the fuckery, look in the window. Like, you literally instigated. If, you know, in hockey, I know mostly basketball references with J. Cole, given his past and how good of basketball players, but there's actually a penalty called instigation in hockey, where, like, you can't just be like, and then, like, get a fight going and just be like, "That's me," you know? He's literally instigating by calling himself Muhammad Ali. Okay? Listen, I have a whole metaphor for you here. Okay? This was going to be my whole video, but then last night happened. So I grew up on the not at all hard streets of Belmont, Massachusetts, outside of Boston. And I went to a middle school called Chenery Middle School. It ended up burning down like 5 years later. It was very, very cathartic to watch your middle school burn to the ground. No one got hurt, fortunately. Although, my gym teacher did end up in jail for inappropriate actions with a minor. And he did, like, straight up, like, abuse me in front of the whole class once. So if he'd been in there, I wouldn't have been super bummed. That's no big deal. He gave extra credit if you took showers with him. This was the 80s. This is the 90s. Anyways, middle school, Chenery Middle School. And there's a whole thing where, even though, you know, it's a nice suburb and everything, you know, every school is essentially the same. And there's always got to be a spot to fight. So about, like, maybe half a mile from the school, there was a reservoir of water. And it being Boston, you can't call it the reservoir, you had to call it the resi. And so a couple times a year, there would be, oh, there's going to be a fight at the resi. There's going to be a fight at the resi. And whenever people would want to get into fights, they would just say, you want to go to the resi? You want to go to the resi? All right? So that's where the fighting happened. I used to go to fights. Whenever anyone would get into a fight at the resi, I would be there. I would be around them chanting, fight, fight, fight. Am I proud of it? No. Is it a fond memory? Yes. Is it a fonder memory? The time when the ice cream truck showed up and they had garbage pail kids and I was able to buy those instead of ice cream? Yeah, but this is pretty good. Anyways, let me talk to you about Fubba. So Fubba was my op in middle school. He pushed me down during a dance. I'm sure he's a fine kid, whatever. Who cares? I don't know what he's actually like in real life now, except to say he had gladly. Blank eyes, doll's eyes. Blonde hair, just these really dull eyes. Big dude, football dude, big dude, So what J. Cole did with first-person shooter would be like if I went up to Fubba and was like, hey, Fubba, I could totally kick your ass at the Resi. Seriously? You and I go to a fight? I'm going to knock you out. Right, Michael? Michael was my friend. We were a couple nerds. Shocking. Right, Michael? Michael's like, what? I don't... yeah. Okay. Cool. And then Fubba walks around the school and says, nah, you couldn't. Nah, I totally beat Sky up. Okay? And then we have 7-minute drill. 7-minute drill, which exists. That exists on Earth with us. We all heard it. Would be like if I walked up and I punched Fubba in the gut and I spit on his face and said, I will be at the Resi at 3 o'clock. And then I go to the Resi at 3 o'clock. And then I delete the song. He gets ready to punch me and I go, oh, whoa, I'm a pacifist. I am a child of light. Like Ace Ventura 2. All right, you can't punch me. I don't fight. Oh my God. Ugh. How common do you think I am to get into a fight at the Resi? I would never, ever get into a fight at the Resi. And then he proceeds to just kick Michael's ass. He's just sitting there like, what? He's just punching Michael, and I'm just sitting there like, nobody should fight. Nobody should fight, all right? So I don't know. That's the negative side of it, because even this song is profiting off the beef. He's still profiting off the beef. He's still using this to publicize his next album. He's still trying to have the butter and the money for the butter. Another comparison that I have, I just can't help it. You saw it in the thumbnail. It reminds me of Milhouse from The Simpsons. There's an episode called Das Bus, where the bus crashes and they have a sort of Lord of the Rings experience where only kids live on the island and they kind of go crazy. Milhouse is the one who crashes the bus. Bart saves him from drowning. He gets accused of stealing all the food when he did indeed steal food, but not all of it. And Lisa and Bart help to defend him in this trial where he's almost killed by all these other kids. Then they go and they run away, okay? And it's this scene that it reminds me of Bart, Lisa, who have been spending the entire episode helping Milhouse. And then here we are as they're trying to get away from the roving packs of kids.
You go first. Okay, now throw the vine back. There's no time.
Okay. That's how it feels to me. Okay, now throw the vine back. There's no time. That's just if I'm being uncharitable, I mean, if I'm being more charitable, once I had to grab something. If I'm being more charitable, I'm realizing, this is what my mom would have liked. My mom would have loved this, because she tried to raise a pacifist, and she did. My parents, they raised me as pacifist. They wouldn't let me watch G.I. Joe because it was too militaristic. They would take my toys and they would throw away the guns. Seriously, she would open up a Star Wars toy, right? Like this Boba Fett toy. She'd open up the toy, take it off of the blister, and then just chuck the gun in the trash. But do you know what that meant? That meant that this was my favorite toy. You know why? Because he has wrist guns that you can't take off. The only Star Wars toy with a missile on the back, and this because I was a kid and I wanted conflict and I wanted fighting. That's kind of how we are. And that's kind of how it is with this song as well. Finally, he says, they say I'm picking sides, don't you lie. I feel like he is. I feel like this whole song is supporting Drake because it's supporting his worldview that if it's about that dough, then you can't knock it. And I don't feel like he's really representing Kendrick's perspective very much at all. I feel like he's basically implying that they're doing the same thing, like they're having the same fight, that they're both sort of doing this for clicks. Drake, you'll always be, I'll just say homie instead of a word that I don't use. Drake, you'll always be my homie. I ain't ashamed to say you did a lot for me, my homie. F all the narratives. Tapping back into your magic pen is what's imperative. Reminding these folks of why we do it. It's not for beefing. Okay, it's not about competition. It's not about beef. Well, maybe it is. Tell the dude that Cowboy punched. It's not. It's not about beefing. Tapping back into your magic pen. I don't know. Does Drake have a magic pen? And if he does, is he the one who's writing with it? I'm not hating on Drake, but come on. It's too easy. Props to Cole for recognizing Drake and for supporting Drake and for giving him all the support that he needs 5 months after it's too late. You know, like way after. You know, this would be like if after everyone left the resi and then Michael's there and Fubba's already home. He's already back home. He's back there. He's playing Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. And I'm like sitting there and I'm like, Michael, I got you. No one's going to mess with you again. You know, we're together here. I got to say, you've done so much for me, Mike, as he's sitting there missing a tooth, you know? And he said, what is rap for? It's for speaking our thoughts, pushing ourselves, reaching the charts, reaching your minds, deep in your heart, screaming to find, emotions to touch, something inside to open you up, help you cope with rough times and ish. I'm sending love because we ain't promised ish. That's great, but except that's not what Drake does, except for the reaching the charts part. That's the whole point. The whole point is that, like, Drake isn't trying to speak his thoughts or push himself or reach into minds or deepen his heart or emotions to touch. That's the whole problem. That's the whole issue. That's what this whole thing's about, is that he's just using this culture as a means to an end, and the end is a bag. It's not emotions to touch. It's just reaching the charts. That's just it. But to close on maybe my favorite Muhammad Ali line, I'm sending you love because we ain't promised ish, is what J. Cole says. And Muhammad Ali says, live every day as if it were your last, because someday you're going to be right. See, I got my Patreons here. I want to give them some shout outs. Also, he's saying, y'all, N-words ain't stopping me. Is he talking about the media? Is he talking about Drake and Kendrick? Who is he talking about? Maybe he's talking about us, you know. Maybe he's talking about the media. I don't know. They helped me to buy diapers and stuff, and music, which is awesome. Oh, also, hey, the beat to the song's very nice. It's a very cool beat, very sweet, kind of, you know, old style Kanye-ish. I'm not sure it's important, except to say that it's a Lonnie Smith sample, and the Lonnie Smith sample, if you look it up on whosampled.com, the most sort of relevant and most searched versions most relevant, popular times that song was sampled was by Jay-Z and Meek Mill. Battle rap figures. You draw your own conclusions. All right, well, because this is indeed the end of the video, I said by the way, I said to end like 2 or 3 times. That is a rhetorical no-no. I apologize to you, my viewer. I have abused your trust. Never ever say to conclude or a final note unless it is actually your final note, because people will not forgive you. They don't know they won't forgive you, but they will walk away from your lecture and be like, underneath of it, that MFer said in conclusion and then talked for 38 more minutes. Okay, so let's see if I make this shot, okay? If I make this shot, I will buy J. Cole's entire discography. All right? You there? Catch you on the flippity flip. Whew. I do like a lot of J. Cole's music. All right. Till next time, there's the camera.